If you mix corn flour with PVA, you can use it to make cold porcelain clay, which you can use to make cute little things like these. Hey, I'm Katie, the creator behind Mimo Corner, a space where I create and sell handmade clay pieces which remind you to take mindful moments. A lot of you were curious about what clay I was using, and you were even more surprised that you can make this clay at home. I've already shared this recipe in my other videos, but I decided to do an in-depth tutorial just to go through in some more details so that's even easier to follow. So if you're into creative projects or curious about working with clay, then this is a great beginner-friendly material for you to get into. Cold porcelain clay is a type of air drying clay, and there's so many reasons why I really enjoy working with it. It's really soft, it's easy to colour, it's cheaper than polymer clay, and it's a lot less messier than your standard air dry clay. The recipe is really straightforward, but it can take a few attempts to get the consistency right. I've messed this up so many times myself, but I've learnt from my mistakes. So I'll go through the process in detail with you so that you can get the best results. I always start by checking that my equipment is very clean and dust free. This clay picks up dust really easily, so use a microfiber cloth or a damp paper towel to wipe everything again just before you use it. Once everything is dry, I measure out 1 cup of corn flour and set it aside. Then measure out 1 cup of PVA and pour it into the mixing bowl. Add 1 tablespoon of vinegar, 1 tablespoon of baby oil and 1 tablespoon of white acrylic paint and mix well. The clay naturally has a yellow tint to it, so the white paint will help neutralise that. You can add a different colour to the clay at this point, using acrylic paint or food colouring. But if you don't have a colour palette in mind, then it's best to keep it white and add colour later in the process. It's good to mix all the wet ingredients first, as the flour will mix in more easily after. Now add the corn flour. Mix it till it's nice and smooth. You might get small lumps, but that's okay. It's ready to go in the microwave now. You can heat this clay up in a non-stick pan on the hob, but I prefer to do it in the microwave. I always start with these timings, then do further sessions of 10 to 15 second intervals, depending on how sticky the clay is. I'll show you how the mixture looks after each session. There's not a huge amount of change after the first 30 seconds. The sides do tend to cook quicker, so try and blend that back into the rest of the mixture. It's important to stir it really well in between each session. This way the clay will cook more evenly. Heat it for another 30 seconds, and once again you want to mix the edges back in. Now reduce the timings to 20 seconds and you can see it starting to thicken more. After the second lot of 20 seconds, it's starting to thicken even more and it does become harder to mix. Now I reduce my timings to 15 seconds. It's getting more doughy at this stage, but it's still very runny in certain areas, but it is getting close. It's very easy to overcook this clay and ruin the whole batch, which is why I only do 15-second intervals at this stage. After another 15 seconds, it's still looking very sticky. I did another 10 seconds, and to test if it's ready or not, take a good chunk of it and press it against your palm. If it sticks to your palm, then it's not quite ready. It's a lot stickier than I expected it to be at this stage, so we'll microwave it for another 15 seconds. You can see that it's a lot more firm now, but still really soft. We'll do the palm test again, and you can see that's not sticking to my palm at all. Now test it with your fingertips by poking it or pinching a bit. It should be quite sticky on your fingertips and leave behind a bit of residue. This is the sign that your mixture is now ready, so you can stop heating it at this stage and just let it cool. If the clay is not sticking to your fingertips, then it's likely that you've overcooked it. Overcooked clay is more prone to cracking later, so it's worth taking your time to get this bit right. The timings for each batch can be slightly different each time, since it cools whilst you mix it. So make sure to do the palm test regularly once it starts looking more dough-like. Whilst the clay is cooling, I like to wipe the table again with a damp microfiber cloth, just to make sure that it's really clean. After drying it, dust the table with a good amount of corn flour. I like to pour some on the side too, so it's easy to dust your hands when you need it. The clay will be very sticky at this point, so sprinkle more corn flour on top, then you can start kneading it. You want to knead the clay whilst it's still warm, but not too hot. If it feels too hot to touch, then let it cool for a bit longer. Once the flour has mixed in well, you can add a bit more corn flour and continue kneading. I repeat this step around 5 to 10 times until it no longer sticks to your hands or table. The clay will feel cold to touch by this point. Typically it takes around 5 to 10 minutes of kneading till the clay is ready. To check if it's ready, you can do the teardrop test. If you take a small amount of clay and pull it apart, you should get a nice sharp point. If the point is a bit floppy, then I would add a bit more flour in and knead it again. I prefer the clay when it's not too soft. So even though there's a nice point already, I like to mix in more flour to make it more firm. Don't overdo the flour though, as the clay won't be as smooth and will become more prone to cracking later. It's hard to explain the exact amount of flour you should add, as the texture is more of a preference thing. So as you work and experiment with this clay, you'll find out what suits you better. I'm quite happy with it now. The texture gets even better after the clay has rested for a day, so to keep it fresh and to store it, you need to apply a layer of oil all over it, then wrap it in cling film or store it in a Ziploc bag. Cleaning up is really easy. Just use warm soapy water to clean off any clay residue from your tools or table. It's been over a week now and this is how it looks. It's very soft, smooth and silky. If your clay doesn't look the same as this one, it's okay, you can still work with it. I've made this clay over 15 times now, but my batches aren't always consistent. As an example, I made this one for the shorts video just before, and it had about 15 seconds less in the microwave, but look how much stickier it was when I was kneading it. It's trickier to handle like this, but if you just keep adding in flour gradually, then it will form a dough eventually. This is how it looks almost 2 weeks after. Initially it looks quite rough and not as silky as the recent batch. I have used some of this clay already, so maybe it looks like this because it's been exposed to more air or because I added a lot of corn flour in during the kneading process. I don't really know. But all you need to do is just condition it well before you use it, and you can see how soft and silky it looks now. This clay is a bit more firm than the recent batch, which would make it easier to sculpt with. In the long run, the softer batch will stay fresh for longer, so there's pros and cons of both. These batches look quite different, but both are good to work with, so don't worry if your clay is inconsistent. Colouring this clay is very straightforward and one of the main perks of using cold porcelain compared to other clays. You can mix soft pastels, acrylic paint or food colouring, just to name a few, into the clay whilst it's still soft. You could also paint or draw onto the clay once it's dry. This clay dries hard like plastic and is very durable, but it's not water resistant, so you need to varnish your pieces to protect them. My preferred method is using UV resin. This is how I make them look so shiny. I go through this method and materials in detail in my Starting a Cold Porcelain Clay Business Part 3 vlog, so you'll find everything you need there. If this is just a little project for fun, then you can just use clear nail polish or air dry clay varnishes that you can get anywhere online. A common problem with cold porcelain clay is that it can easily crack during the making or drying process. It's incredibly frustrating when that happens, and I had so many issues with this. I somehow persevered and eventually figured out how to stop this from happening. I made another video just focusing on this to explain the ways you can help prevent cracks on clay. I really recommend you watch this before you start sculpting to avoid any unnecessary disappointments. I share a lot of clay tips on my channel, so do have a look. If you found this video helpful, then do subscribe. This channel isn't monetized yet, so your support will really help me grow this channel and encourage me to keep sculpting and filming content for you. I hope you enjoy using cold porcelain clay. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.